Hello, so this is the video for the platformer project. And first off, I will start off with showing off the scripts within the project, and then I'll go on more to the inspector and within the Unity engine and show off the actual project itself. So for starters, I'll start off with the player script. So, for the player movement, I've decided to not just make it so you move left or right, but also add a wall jumping mechanic to it, which granted it took a while for me to figure out, but I managed to implement the wall jumping, which kind of was an error. But as of now, it works. There's a wall jumping mechanic to it, and the player can move left and right. This block of code over here should be responsible for whether the player can move left and right, and can also the first line on the other hand though should be responsible for the grounding. Other than that, over here you'll see there's this is all responsible for the character movement. So over here you can move horizontal and vertical, and when you press the space button you can jump. And there's also the grounding method to it also, which I'll get more into later. The player is also affected by gravity, and by that I mean I implemented the variable jump force. So essentially, depending on the jump force, that's how high the player can jump. So obviously, the bigger the jump force, the bigger the player can jump. The smaller the jump force, then the smaller the player can jump, obviously. Over here you have some of the public variables and some of the Boolean factors for the grounding and the layering and for the wall jumping and can you move. And here's also the attachment for the rigid body and the animation, which I'll get onto a little later on. Now for the grounding method, so as I said previously, this specific line was a raycast for the grounding method. And then over here, down, where is it? Let's see. Where did I put it? Yeah, over here. So as you can see over here, once the player can only jump once, and can jump again once it touches the ground. So obviously this is to prevent from the player to have an infinite amount of jumps. So over here, essentially, it makes it so the player can jump and can then only jump again once it touches a horizontal platform or a vertical platform for the wall jumping. Over here, I have the function and I enumerator for this disable movement over here. So essentially, this helps with the grounding method. Player can. Let's see. So instead of a double jump, I decided to obviously, as I said previously, add a wall jumping because I decided, I might design some levels that could require a wall jumping mechanic to it, which I have. Animations. So on top of here, for the player anyways, you have the animator with the variable represented by anim. And if I go way down here, this essentially adds the Boolean value. So essentially, it states that if the player is idling, then there won't be a walking animation to it. But once the player starts moving, then there will be the walking animation. And obviously, there is an idling animation, which I'll show during the game presentation. But with the animation, essentially, it's a Boolean value. So essentially, if walking is true, then implement the walking animation. If walking is false, then implement the idle animation. There's also animations for the gems, I believe. This is for the gem score. I think I had it. I'll show the animation for the gems later on, and animations for a kind of a wrecking ball with spikes. Sounds. So the sounds I implemented were usually just music. I added different types of music tracks. So there's different music for the title screen, there's different music for the levels, and then there's different music for the ending screen. which I'll show within Unity itself. And then the multiple scenes. Actually, I might as well just get into the... Oh, hold on. Let me just talk about the checkpoint scripts first before I move on to Unity itself. So over here you have the checkpoints with the game object flag. So the checkpoints for me were a flag, which was just a triangle on a skinny rectangle. And over here essentially has the on-trigger enter function definition. So it will trigger once it collides with an object that has the tag player. And it will also start the next level. So essentially with me, checkpoints, there's only one checkpoint per levels. So essentially, once the player dies, they spawn back to the original position of the level. But once they reach a checkpoint, they go on to the next level, and if they die in the second level, then they won't spawn back all the way to the first level. Instead, they'll just spawn back to the second level. And now to move on to Unity. So if I were to go to, for starters, might as well talk about the... Oh, I have to go back and talk about the comments also. Usually, from the looks of it, all the scripts with their function definitions, function methods, and all the variables, they all seem to be very commented. You have everything here above it, all these comments within all the scripts. And now when it comes to project organization, it took a while to organize the project, but it should be fully organized as of now. So as you can see, you have the animations folder, you have a level scenes folder, the music folder, which I've given credit to, the prefab variants. This was for different platforms, spikes, gems, and the swinging ball. This was also for a reassurance. So in case if by chance an error happens within the original prefab, I'll essentially have the prefab variant as the replacement. Over here you have the sample scene. Oh yeah, so I added on a art asset extension from the Unity asset store, who I've also given credit to, and this is just a scene from the Sunnyland assets. So this one's actually not really important. What matters is the level scenes, not this. Actually, I might as well just rename this. Might as well just add it like that. So back to the organization. So over here you see you have the scripts folder with obviously all the scripts. The shapes folder. So the shapes folder is due to the fact that I thought I don't want to make it completely all assets from another person, so I decided maybe to add my own little assets. So really, the only assets I added was the wrecking ball with spikes, a flag, and I believe that's all actually. And this is just the files for the Sunnyland Unity asset extension, which I've also given credit to. So the Sunnyland file, none of that is my work. That's all just art assets. And this one, just a scene that came up with the Sunnyland extension. Also, when it comes to the hierarchy, so over here you have obviously the main camera that should have a soundtrack for it. Yeah, here it is. Let's see. Also, you have the title canvas with all this stuff: the text, the background image, and the play and exit button. Let's see, and then the button functions, that's just a script, I believe. Yep, that's just a script. So if I were to go to the level scenes and say, go to level 1. So then now you have the hierarchy organized also for each level scene. So the title screen is organized, level 1, the hierarchy is organized, level 2, the hierarchy is organized, and the final menu is all organized. When it came to bugs and errors, it'll probably be noticeable in the video. So with the wall jumping mechanic, it seems to have an issue with the collisions. So sometimes the character will have the, or maybe it might be an animation issue, but the character will have the walking animation even though the character seems to be stuck on an invisible object. So there is that bug and error, but other than that, there's no other really major bugs and errors. Everything all seems to be work as intended. So really the only bug is just the weird thing with the player sprite getting stuck to an invisible object. So I'm going to show off the project itself. So first I'm going to start off with the title screen. Let's see. Volume. So over here you have the title screen. The title of the project was A Fox Adventure because that was the only title I could come up with. And as you can see, there's two buttons, the exit button, and they both highlight different colors. The exit button, once you click it, it obviously will exit, but due to the fact that I'm in engine, it won't actually do anything. But once I press the play button, it should also, highlight a more dark green. And then here comes different soundtrack. Also, here's the scoring system for the game. So right now, you can collect gems, and each gem is worth 100 points. And you can see that the gems are also animated, so it looks like they're rotating around. So if I were to touch a spike, I should spawn back to the beginning. You can see here, yep, it spawns me right back in the beginning. And here's some just random mushrooms and rocks and a tree just to add more decoration to the level design. As you can see, the player has the idle animation, and if I were to walk around, you can notice that I have the walking animation. So if I just do this level for a while, as you can see, every gem I collect adds 100 points to the score. And I placed a gem here in case you want to just experiment more with the wall jumping mechanic. So if I were just, as you can see, this is the wall jumping mechanic. And if you feel like it, you can just try to wall jump back on that platform. But I'm just going to die here just to make this video a lot more quicker. So, going back over here, up every platform. Sadly, I also couldn't add a jumping animation. I mean, it kind of looks like it has a jumping animation whenever I decide to walk like this. But there's no actual jumping animation because for some strange reason it actually wouldn't process. So this is a good example of the wall jumping mechanic over here. So if I just jump through here, and boom. Oh, and this is the wrecking ball with spikes that I made. With just a circle, a little, well, not a little, a long skinny rectangle, and another ball with the spike assets from the Sunnyland extension. So if I were to touch it, it would bring me back. Yep. And go all the way back up here. This is all the first level. I'll try to jump over here. And just wait over here. Over here, the last gem, wait over here. Obviously, if you jump down here, you won't die. I think you'll just land on the platform. So then, boop, the flag turns green to red, and then there should be a 1 second frame in which it transitions you to the first level to the second level. So this is now the second level. As you can see, your previous score from the first level is still there, so you don't have to worry about losing your score as you continue on with the level. So this level, I decided to design it a little bit more difficult, and also just running out of ideas, so I just decided to use a lot of blocks. As you can see, I might have made this a little too difficult for myself. Let's see if I can finish this. I should be able to. As you can see, here's the mushrooms, bushes, rocks, and a little sign over there. Now, this also, I tried to make the levels so you can use the wall jumping mechanic a little bit more. So over here, I'm going to use it again. Boop, 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 boop. Then here's the wrecking balls with spikes. Just cross over here. Wall spike over here. And boop. And wall jump over here again. Boop. There we go. I'll walk about. Be careful with that one spike over here. And then once I touch a specific area within the flag, the red triangle will turn green to show that, oh, you finished the level. Once I do that, take me to the ending scene. And as you can see here, it says you've completed the game, congratulations, and it should have a different soundtrack. Yeah. And other than that, everything else here seems to be fine.